Perfect. Let's rip. Today, what I'm thinking of doing is practicing and figuring out the Loomis method. Now, what that is basically like a framework, a schematic you're able to follow, and then it should give you a pretty accurate face every single time. I've never been the biggest fan of it, but fuck it. Let's try it. Who's gonna stop us? Absolutely no one. Okay, so basically, how we're gonna do this is we'll start with an orb like always. And what we do with that orb, actually, you know what, let me just put these headphones on. Chill style. Okay. What we're gonna do, god damn it. If only there was time before the stream I could do to set all this up. What you want to do is start with just a circle. I don't even know if you guys can see all of that. Let me get that in focus, eh? Perfect. Okay. So, that's interesting. You always want to start with a circle. And then basically you map out where the side of the head is, and you give that some dimension and some boundaries and everything like that. And then you take that same line and you cut it across just to give you that midline, and then you can take another midline down the absolute center. Hey everybody, we're doing the Loomis method for the first time ever. And I can even put this in pen to make it sort of easier to see for everyone while I'm explaining it before we actually get into drawing with this method. But essentially what you do every time, this is supposedly like the way. Oh, thank you for the follow. This is supposedly, oh, what's up, Poochie? Supposedly the way that is easiest for people to draw heads consistently, which I think is bullshit, but we might actually learn something from learning this method, so I'm fine with it. Basically, so this is like first step. We're just going to write down all of the steps so we see them all, and then we're going to try it in like in an actual setting. So then from this, I'll even add like an arrow. We are going to draw, I mean obviously in a real world setting, we would just be drawing all of this on top of the same thing, but I want to be able to show the progress with everything. You know what I mean? So, with all of these lines that we are setting up, it's all like schematics, right? And this step doesn't even really matter. But what you want to do is make sure that this middle line is curved, so then it shows you that this head is going to be 3D. Like when you're drawing, a lot of the times faces will end up flat. And it's because you're not understanding that this line, sort of the one that cuts through the nose, like your nose will be right here and your eyes will be here, but this line shows us that the nose is going to be in front of this eye, this nose is going to be in front of this cheekbone. Like this plane separates everything into perspective switches. Does that make sense? So then from there, knowing that this line has to be like curved, and this face all like it is going to be covering certain things, we will draw the third step, which again, if we were actually drawing with this method, we would be just drawing all of these steps over each other, but for now, I'm just going to mark out all of these little things for us to make sense. Now, we have this top of the head. We need to figure out where the jaw and the mouth and all of that stuff is, right? So from there, using this middle point, we can sort of etch in a semblance of a forehead, and that line is going to cascade down. We can just thicken that up. Again, this is all just for setup. We'll actually start drawing something after we get all of these. But we're essentially just drawing one big line down that center. And you can even sort of mark out these little sections. They should all be like medium distances. This section, and this section. And what that's going to do is sort of tell us where our eyes are going to be, which is usually going to be about here, the end of our nose, our mouth, and then our chin. So it's all just schematic, it's all just setup. And then we'll go to 4. So after you have this big lineup, we can do the same thing. So that initial circle, side of the head, get all of your little perspective lines in. Make sure that this middle line is curved because we are drawing in a 3D space. We have that front of face sign. Now, from this edge of the circle, this far right edge, hey Crow, you better watch it with that word, Crow. From this side, you can basically imagine this as one of the cheeks, right? So we're going to take that line just straight down, a little bit of a curve there, just like always add some sort of curve to all of your lines. And that's going to end up being the bottom of the chin. So we can just throw down a perspective line there. And then what we're going to do, especially in this step 4, is we're going to mark out that the ear is going to be in this little 4th quadrant, right? So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. The ear is always going to be in this far one. So we can mark that out. We can drop this part down, and that's going to be our chin. And then we can basically just connect that up, and it gives us our jawline, chin, into cheek, into top of head. And now, basically, we don't even really need the 5th step. I'm looking at a diagram as we're doing this, but hey, Crow. Oh, hey, everybody. Glad to have you. Basically, the only other steps are marking out all of these moments. So like this would be the eyebrow bone. We definitely want some sort of idea of where we want our nose. We want some idea of where we want our mouth. This chin is going to stay fairly open. So basically step 5 is basically all of those little interesting quirks that a head would have, right? So I'm going to show that off now. That's basically all of the Loomis method setup. And what this does is it shows us what you doing, what you watching him draw. Just ate a parfait. Ooh, Poochie, a parfait. I haven't had a parfait in a long, long time. That sounds really good. Basically, what this Loomis method teaches us is just perspective, proportion, and how to get certain lines and certain dimensions correct. So in this 5th step, we have basically all of the schematics, starting from just a beach ball all the way through into what is going to be, you know, a face, which the eyes will populate about there, that nose is going to come in there, we'll add in the mouth and whatever, and then the chin, blah blah blah. So now that we have all of those little pieces, let's move over to the handy dandy pencil, okay, and start figuring out how to actually lay stuff in. So I'm going to grab a different reference image, and basically every time you're drawing or every time you're learning a new method like this, it's very important and a very good idea to have a reference image constantly. I get the honey granola from Aldi's. Oh, yep. Drawing droids from Star Wars? Duh. That's actually the trick. That's the thing I'm not telling anyone. Now that we have all of these methods, it's important to have that piece of reference next to you, because there are a ton of spots in this that you can mess up pretty quick. So I'm taking my pencil, I'm drawing super lightly everywhere. I'm going to start with that big bowling ball with the side of the head shown. I'm going to keep all of these lines nice and curvy and light. I'm really focusing on perspective, really focusing on this head turning this way. I have that initial sort of through line through my whole head, through my whole pussy even. We're going to draw the chin. We're going to draw that ear, just an indication, that circle. That's going to give us our jawline. So we can throw that in there. We are going to, hello everyone that's joining on TikTok. We are going to further hit that brow bone. That's really good. At first I thought it was a beach ball or something. Yeah, right? From there, we can initially throw in sort of an indication line of where we think the eyes are going to go. Then from there, we're going to take this first side circle, we're going to throw a line just across the entire face. That's where I'm thinking the bottom of the nose is going to be. Then from the chin, this sort of chin line that we added in, we can throw a line there, and that's going to be the mouth. Now, with a method like this, I think the most important part about all of this, and the most important part about learning methods like this, is that it is not just like every single time I draw, I'm going to draw this and it's going to turn out fine. This is just a little bit of a framework to help us make sure that we're getting some things right more often than not. So, all of this stuff is going to change. Like, the nose height, the mouth height, I'm expecting to erase a bunch, if not all of this, and redo it. Like, already I think this chin is too big, but I'm going to continue with the drawing to hopefully get some good learnings out of it. So from this method, remember when I said this was the brow bone? If that's the brow bone, then that means it's going to cut in a little bit perspectively, and it's going to cut up the first on this top side. So it's going to be one big plane coming at us, and then when the brow bone hits, it's going to be a plane going away from us. If you can see that here, I'll even draw it just a little bit darker. So it's almost like we're drawing a visor on this guy, right? Like, think of it kind of like a droid. And then, because of that, we have to draw the cheekbone plane. And what the cheekbone plane is essentially the same thing, but the opposite direction. It's another plane coming towards us after, that eyebrow bone cuts in, right? So we can have an arrow cutting in there, and then an arrow shooting out there. And then that cheekbone has, you guessed it, another plane dropping down. And you can see this, like, if you're ever just looking at your own face, most of these things are pretty apparent, but it's good to draw this method and really think about it. So we can see we have this huge slate of flesh, call it, and that's the forehead, right? And we have that midline that goes all the way down. We have that small indent plane that's going to be the underside of the eyebrow. We have that jut out that's going to be the top of the cheekbone. We have that jut down that's going to be the bottom of the cheekbone. Now from here, we're going to go up to the top of the brow bone, and we are going to draw what we believe the nose is going to look like. So that's going to be one flat plane out to sort of a guess and check spot. Remember that line that we drew right here that's supposed to be the bottom of the nose? The nose has a lot more volume than just that top bridge, right? So we're going to draw just before that line So then we can draw the bottom frame, or the bottom plane of the nose, which this plane is actually where all of the nostrils and those bottom details are going to live. So we're even going to extend that plane out just a little bit to give us a better idea of how big this nose is. Most people's noses are just a little bit bigger than you think they are. It's sort of like a triangle. And we can even throw up some perspective lines around there just as a rough cut. Obviously we're not drawing a polygon man or a cartoon man like that, so take it all with a grain of salt. We're just figuring out how big and all of the sort of sides of the human face with this. And if you notice, now that we drew the nose in the middle, you kind of see the eye sockets just appearing in front of us. So we want the brow bone to stick above the eye, and we want the cheekbone to stick below the eye. So where does that put our eye at? Right in the middle. So we're just going to draw 2 circles here, and these will be our placeholders for our eyes as we get going with this drawing. Now we have the absolute front of the nose is this line right here. So I'm going to put an indicator for that. I'm going to just very roughly draw a little bit of that bottom of the nose, because what that does is gives us that teardrop shape that we can use to get the mouth correct. Now, when you're drawing mouths, it's always good to remember that the mouth cannot extend past the pupils of the eye. If you look at yourself in the mirror, or if you look at yourself in your front-facing camera, look at the ends of your mouth. Like the very far ends connect exactly with the pupils of your eye, the exact center of your eye. So whenever you're drawing people, if you have this rough cut of the eye, throw down just a line straight down, and you're going to see if your mouth is proportional or not. And it will be if you make sure that the longest parts don't go past the middle of the eye. That is a pro tip. That's a bangin' ass tip. Crow, you couldn't even fucking think of that if you tried, man. Okay, so now that we have that, we have a sweet ass forehead. We have a brow bone. We have a cheekbone. We have the bottom of the cheek, and it goes into head. Now, from this, I'm even just going to smooth this out to keep this drawing a little bit more simple. And already, as you can see, remember when I said all of that sort of BS about this is just a framework, everything is going to change? Well, guess what? We've added in the eyes, the nose, the mouth, and all of a sudden, that's actually a cool tip. Thank you very much, Poochie. We've noticed, or we've figured out, that this chin is way too big. I'm talking like gargantuan. I'm talking Chrisman chin level. So what we're going to do, because this is all framework, because this is all practice, we're just going to erase it because we've kept all of our lines straight or thin, and then we can just fix and change. So I'm going to throw in a new rough cut of what I think that chin is supposed to look like, and then a new rough cut of what I think that jawline is supposed to look like, and then a new rough cut of what I think that top of the jaw is going to look like. And now this face looks just a little bit more proportional. Like always, every time you change, every time you add, draw a circle, put a curved line in the middle on the top, curve on the side, and a line down. Exactly, Latrell. Basically, every time you erase and fix, you notice that the drawing changes for the better without a doubt. So there is something to be said about always drawing very lightly and being willing and okay to erase and reset, because sort of like writing an essay or working on a piece of homework or whatever it is, the first rendition is probably going to be, let's say, mid, but then when you revise it, it becomes so much better. How long have you been drawing, and is it your favorite passion to do? I've been drawing on and off my whole life. I really like the 4B pencils. Kind of hate drawing with anything else. Definitely. 4B is great too because it's It's soft enough. Like this one, this is a 5B, and I use it for my finer details, but I always do all of these like rough sketches with just an HB, because also it's like, this is the most accessible to everybody. It's just a yellow pencil. Poochie, I've been drawing pretty much my whole life, but I just started taking it really seriously the last year or two, maybe. Favorite passion to do? I'm not sure yet. I really don't know. It's been a nice one. I like to draw, I like to create stuff. I like sewing too. I like playing video games, but I'm not sure which is my favorite, I guess. Okay, so we have that chin. Honestly, like, this chin's almost too big anyways, but that's fine because we're just practicing and I'm trying to teach you this method. So now that we have solid forehead, solid brow bones, all of those things, you can start going in and adding detail. So from this from this brow, we can add that curved line into the nose. We can add a little bit of definition into the bottom of the nose. Add like a nostril in that sides pocket that we added earlier. Add both nostrils. And then you can sort of start adding in the outline of the nose, but be careful, because when you're doing this part, it's very easy, and what a lot of people will do is they'll draw the two nostrils like this, but then they draw that like the outside of the nostril like all the way up, and you end up getting this sort of dragon nose, and then all of a sudden you get super pissed off because your nose doesn't look right, because it looks really cartoony when you're trying to do something else, right? So you're just going to draw basically the under 3/4. Mr. Renaissance Man over here. That's what's up. Swag. Thank you, Poochie. Swag right back at you. You're going to draw like the bottom 3/4, and then basically that nose is just going to morph up into shadow. Like, you don't need all of that detail. And then on this other side, obviously this all changes with what perspective you're drawing at, but you can draw this nostril sort of cascading down from that bridge of the nose. And then the way we're going to indicate that this is a different sort of plane is just shading. So this top area is going to be shaded differently than this bottom area, if that makes sense. If it doesn't, get the fuck out of here, man. Alright. So, we've got this nose. Already, just with that little brow bone swoop, that little cup, and then these two nostrils, already that nose looks way better than anything else, right? So that's fine. We're winning. We're actively winning. Then we can just start throwing in a little bit of shading underneath this brow bone. Remember when we said this plane cuts in and then it jumps out for the cheekbone? This, if the light's coming straight down on top of the head, all of the planes that are facing away from that sun or that light source or whatever, those are the things that are going to get the shadows. So, guess what? Ring-a-ding-a-ling. This one's under shadow, so you can throw a little bit of shade on there. Throwing shade! Dude, I'm getting the hang of this streaming shit. Okay, so we have the shadows right there. Again, that bottom of the nose is probably going to be in shadow, right? There's probably going to be a little bit of shadow cast from the nose onto the top of that lip. Excellent teaching. Thank you, Dale Gribble. And then there's going to be, again, remember all of the planes that are facing away from that light source, which this lip, this bottom lip, is actually going to cast a shadow, whether you like it or not, okay? Pocket sand! Fa! Poochie and Crow, you're very quiet, that's fine. It's going to cast a shadow, so we can throw a little bit of shading there. And now, we're starting to see like a face get carved out of this, which is crazy. Boulevard marketing. So what we're going to start doing is throwing in a lot more detail. And we can even go into these eyes. If we want to get really heady with this shit, This guy needs more viewers. Pretty solid personality. Thank you, Dale. People are gonna start saying that I hired you. Spam likes with me, chat. Thank you very much, Dale. We can go crazy technical on these eyeballs. I've never shown you guys this on YouTube. Don't worry. If you draw basically a huge circle, a huge orb, this is what the eyeball looks like, right? So if we're drawing an eyeball, especially on any character, any sort of face, you have to remember that this is behind the eyelid. So we have that ball, and then what we can do, and this is just like a good training exercise, you can draw that little slit or that opening that the eye is. And remember, this is all a 3D object. This is all behind. So that eyelid, we're going to be able to see creases at the top and bottom of that sphere. And on top of that, this is something everybody always forgets, and I swear I forget it all the time too. You do have a great teaching voice. Oh, thank you so much. It is not what I do for work. It is what I wished I do for work. Think about this. So, if this ball is the eyeball, and these little sheets are over top of that eyeball, that means that these sheets have depth. They have like a 3D, they have shape to them, which means you are going to be able to see a little bit of a ridge depending on what angle you're looking at the eye. So if I'm looking at the eye straight on with maybe a little bit of an angle up, I'm going to be able to see this ridge of the eyelid, because the eyelid is 3D, so this little ridge sticks out. This is actually where all of your eyelashes come out of, and then that eye is going to be inside of that ridge, right? Is that making sense? Someone keeps trying to get in my live. So like this ridge alone, if you're drawing eyes and if you're really struggling, like having a little bit of that ridge actually adds so much definition and so much detail to your drawing that it basically settles the drawing if it's good or not. Like if I see someone that's drawing a little bit of definition or a little bit of eyelid ridge, it's over. I know that they know what they're talking about. So what we can do with this one is we can draft up a rough eye shape, because if you see it a little bit, I've already drawn it, but I'm not sure it picks up on the camera super well. There is that orb behind what I'm drawing, right? So I have this eyelid, I'm drawing this little almond shape, and I'm going to be able to see just a little bit of that bottom ridge, and maybe just a little sweetness of that top ridge. And then you can throw in a little wrinkle on all of the edges, and then you can even throw in, remember this part of the eye, like it's still 3D. It still connects from this ridge into whatever that eyebrow bone is doing, if it juts out or whatever. So there is some sort of flow state in that eye. I'm hoping these lines are making sense, but there is like a flow to it. There are plane shifts, right? So with this, you can indicate that by adding in a little crease, and that basically what that does is it shows that this eye is one big circle and the eyelids are on top of it. 200 more likes to get this guy on the road to 2K. Holy shit! Dale! Thank you very much. Okay, so now that we're girl bossing like fucking crazy, when you're drawing the iris and the pupil, basically this part you're just going to have to practice. I don't have a crazy crack tip for you. Hey, it's Crow. I'm back from doing something. What I miss? Crow, you missed so much. I found my rhythm, dude. I'm teaching art to TikTok, Crow, and you're fucking missing it all. Okay, so basically, you're just gonna have to practice this. I can't teach you how to draw just like a solid little circle, because it just takes practice. Some of these things, like, there are not quick fixes, and I'm sorry to tell you that. That guy Yeetus, this is the first actual live I've seen that's teaching about art. Keep up the great work. Whoa! Yeetus! That's Beastus. I'm sorry. Okay. Um, it's just gonna take some time. And like a lot of art stuff is like that, and it is really frustrating. I get it. But like just do one page of, let's say, one, two, three, do like 10 to 12 eyes just one day and just figure it out. And then once you get that down, you can come back to all of these head methods and all the stupid shit you learn on TikTok, and you can make it work. But it will take a little bit of time. So now we have that first eye. I'm pretty proud of that. I'm fine with moving on from that eye. So with this one, now since the face is turned away a little bit, depending on the angle that you turn this face, right, you are going to see less and less of this eye. And the same, like, vice versa, corn is good. It is. It kind of makes or breaks some meals. I would venture to guess a little corn. Ooh, this is all going to be controversial. Little bit of corn in any sort of hot dish, rips. Little bit of corn in any sort of burrito, rips. Any sort of salad, rips. Sometimes it can be overpowering, but god damn, corn is good. Okay, the more this nose is turned, the less of that eye we see. And also, the more of this side of the head is turned away from us, the less of that we're going to see, right? It's all perspective. Hell no? Ooh, we got some fighters in the chat. Oh no, Poochie Man is gone, he left. God damn it. He'll come back. Poochie Man 5000 always comes back. But for this angle, as we're looking at this nose really isn't going to take away too much of the eye. So I'm going to start it pretty close. I'm going to add in that top angle of that almond. And remember, I did draw that big orb. So the whole eye is about that circle, right? Remember all of that teaching that I did? I'm back. I told you, Crow. Poochie always comes back. We just need Magnus in here. And because we are looking at this from a certain angle, this top eyelid has a little bit of depth, and this bottom eyelid also has that little shelf. So we can throw in just a little indication. And also, like, when you are drawing and when you're practicing, you love elote? Ooh, I love elote. Holy shit. I gotta make some, actually. That's a fantastic idea. When you're drawing and when you're practicing, sometimes it's way better and way more beneficial to draw really big. Like, I'm talking, if this is some of the first heads you've ever drawn, or you're trying to draw eyes and faces and all of those things, take up the whole page. Like, really give yourself space to play, because right here, if you're looking close, like, I'm really straining to get some of these details into this drawing because it's small. But if you're drawing really big, you have all of the leeway in the world to draw, you know, a massive eye, and then you can get all of those, like, little planes that I'm talking about without having to ruin, or without having to, like, really strain yourself and really dig in there, right? So, if you're actually, like, really trying to learn, I say start drawing really big, and then you can start toning things down. And now, I'll add in the iris. And remember, this is just one of those things that you kind of have to practice. You can't just, I don't really have a good trick for you. Just remember, when you are drawing an eye that's facing away, or it's on that sort of away plane, you had to reset your phone because it was messing up. God, Poochie Man. That's crazy. I feel for you. You don't need to tell everyone what the virus is from. When you're drawing that eye, remember that if it's facing away from you on that plane, the iris is going to move a little bit. Remember, people's eyes point at their subject, right? And they usually follow each other. So, if your head is turned this way, but you want the pupils pointing this way, both of them are going to point this way, and this further one is going to have a little bit of a more extreme angle. As you can see this, like, this one's pretty centered, this one has a little bit of a left lean. Now, going back, add a little bit of definition for some of those wrinkles. We really want people to know that we are drawing a 3D skin over the eyeball, right? So just adding little lines usually figures that out. Adding in that inside shelf that I was talking about too is incredibly important. And then remembering that there is a crease from where the eyeball, like the actual ball, stops, and then that like eyebrow line starts. So we can draw a little bit of a crease right there. And that's basically both of the eyes done. So now, just from, I looked away for 2 seconds. Why is he staring into my soul? That's awesome. Dude, I'm glad you're liking this, Yeetus. Just didn't want you guys to think I left for no reason. We'll do cowboy. Poochie, I love you. That's great. Now that we have the eyes and the nose, basically, we're 90% done with this drawing. The mouth is incredibly easy. If you remember from what I was saying earlier, the mouth cannot extend past the pupils of the eye. This is a pro tip. Now that you guys are all like new into this stream, I'm seeing 17 of you here. Crazy. The mouth, if you look at yourself in a mirror or a front-facing camera, you will notice the ends of your mouth do not go past the pupils in your eyes. So, with that in mind, Pinhead, you're a Mothman, Chicago Mothman? Oh my god, I'm gonna kill you. You can draw a line straight down from the pupils in any drawing, at any perspective, at any angle, and it will tell you exactly where the ends of your mouth should be. That is one of the coolest drawing tips I have ever learned, and now I've told you guys, and you cannot waste that information. So basically, that line bangs off and shows us exactly where our little mouth line should be, so we can't actually make it look longer. And the reasons that's important is like I've drawn so many faces where like I'll do the 2 eyes, whatever, I'll do the nose, whatever, and then all of a sudden I have this like crazy long mouth, and it looks like garbage. It looks like hot ass garbage. How did you stumble upon this one? Hey man, I've been hacking you. I've got your whole email, I've got your IP, I've got your mother's maiden name. Whoa, this is popping off now. Thank you very much. How can I know the right length of the nose? That is incredibly interesting. So, basically what we've been doing here is we're learning this new method, right? The way this method states the nose length is we have this beach ball, which gives us this middle line. This is actually the eyebrow line, right? And then this bottom line supposedly is going to be the bottom of your nose. So then we have the eyebrow line and the bottom line, and that should sort of give you a rough estimate of how long the nose should be. But that's just this method. There is a different sort of method that I've used before, and it's fine. Nathan, can you draw Mothman? Ooh, actually, that would be very fun. Not Chicago Mothman. Swear you're going to teach that class then, Nathan? I am. Are you going to get in trouble? Get in trouble for taking this guy's IP address? I was literally struggling with the mouth, took a break, and here I am. Oh, sweet! These are just guidelines, though. You can mess with the proportions and get desired nose shape. Exactly, Eric. So basically what I've been teaching this whole time is that this is just a framework to use. This is just like a kickoff point. And then we can go into all of these fun details and get everything correct later. But that's a rough estimate of how to get a nose. That's how I got it here. And with that crazy mouth length point, another tip, another hot ass tip. I'm talking spice level infinity. You hate silliness? Silly Felly, what's up? Mothman, please. I can get down to Mothman. Silly, welcome in. Another hot ass spicy ass tip. The lips, here's the thing. Every time you draw lips, I bet you start with the outline of the lip, that middle line, and then another outline. And you pretty much always get these cartoony, stupid lips. And it pisses you off and it ruins your drawing, right? That's what I'm thinking, because that's what happened to me forever. Then, I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was talking about drawing, and I was talking about how stupid lips are, and they said to me, that's because you're not supposed to draw them, you're supposed to shade them. It's just value. Lips are only color, and then a midline, and then more color. There is no top line, there is no bottom line, there is no nothing, right? So with this one, we have that beautiful midline from the pupils of our eyes, the hot, hot tip, the super sexy, cool tip that I taught you. Then the lips, I'm not drawing any sort of top line or bottom line. I am just going to shade them an even tone of gray, right? I feel so seen. I get good ones sometimes. That's perfect. And then, remember what I was talking about? All of that plane stuff? Like, if the plane is facing away from the light source, obviously it's going to be darker. If it's facing towards, it'll be lighter. If you're looking at the lips, if you're thinking about the lips, you can basically think about them as, I'm drawing them out right here, a top plane, a bottom plane, the middle line, and then a top plane and a bottom plane, right? Like, these are the super simplified lips. So, sun hits these, pretty light on top, pretty dark on bottom. Sun hits the top of the bottom lip, not the bottom of the bottom lip, so it's going to have shadow underneath and a highlight on top. And then, it cuts into the chin and out, so there's going to be a little bit of an extra shadow, right? Is this educational, Arian? No, not even a little bit. I'm actually ruining all of your minds by teaching you different things than what's supposed to happen. But if we're simplifying lips down like crazy, that's what they should look like, tonally, right? Like, just value-wise. So, you love me? Woo, you're getting into dark territory. So this top of the lip can be fine with that little bit of gray, but we're going to add a little bit of darkness surrounding that break line, right? And you see how much depth that just added? Now on this bottom lip, the same thing. I'm going to add just a little bit more darkness on this bottom area. So now we have a highlight right here and a shadow right here. And then I'm going to even go so far as to add a little bit of a shadow below the lip. Isn't that crazy? And now that mouth actually looks pretty realistic. Does love scare you? That is too deep of a question for a TikTok live where I'm drawing some guy's face. Let's just make that clear. Wholly unrelated? What the? It's not unrelated, Eric. We're chilling. We're having fun. Alright. But you see how, like, crazy just that little bit of light and dark play bang off. And now those lips look solid. So, let's recap. We have pretty realistic eyes. I've given you some cool tips about that. We have a pretty realistic nose. I've given you basically no tips on that, but noses are annoying and hard to draw. So that's another thing. Earlier when I said I can't teach you anything about drawing the pupils and irises, you just have to practice that 12 times in a row. Same thing with the nose. Just like draw 12 of them, get used to it. They're just like this weird, crazy, blobby material with these nostrils that flare out, and then the bridge moves up into 3 or 4 parts, and then those nostrils connect. Like, it's all... You see how many shapes I just drew there? Like, noses just take time. Oh my god, no, someone said they loved you and you said it was a dark territory. Oh yeah. Dark, dark territory. You do not want to sail those seas. Right, Poochie and Crow? That's Def Nick Cage. We can turn this into Nick Cage. Easy. Okay. And then the mouth. We got all those fire, hot-ass tips for hot-ass people. Now, basically, all we have to do are eyebrows, the ear, and then really solidly figuring out the outline to this head. We are not, you do love me, well thank you very much. We do not want to worry about hair today. That can be a whole different lesson. But I can do like a very rough cut of hair. So, let's move on to the ear. Basically, ears are really scary for a lot of people. But with this method, if you remember the first step, that beach ball into all of these extra things, I'll show YouTube and Twitch here. It all moves in together, but this quadrant, this like fourth little brick, or fourth little pie cut, right, is where the ear lives. So what you want to do is in here, you can even start with just like a very rough circle cut and then slowly find your way into what an ear detail would look like, but I'm just going to go ahead and draw the shape that I want this ear to be, which is just that sort of classic big circle, half circle up top, and then it curves into basically a little bit of a lobe. And then that's all you have to do for the outside. And then you're basically just playing with all of those little details. I would suggest as you're learning ears, just look at pictures of your own ear or pictures of other people's ears or whatever, and figure out all these like weird little cartilage bumps that you have to draw. And then just, practice like the nose and like the lips and like the eye thing. It all just takes a little bit of time. Like, usually ears are an afterthought for a lot of drawings. If you can get them down to maybe like half of a science and you can draw them like decently well, it's going to upgrade your drawing a bunch, but I'd say focus on all of the face stuff later, because like I hardly drew any details in that ear and I'm fine with it. Like, it's okay. You can even just draw like very cartoony ears, and people are okay with that as well. Okay, so we have that ear in, and the special part about an ear, literally the scene from SpongeBob where Patrick goes, "I love you," and the door slams shut. That's a good reference. I love Patrick's voice. What the ear does, and this is another hot tip, okay? This is a hot diarrhea tip for everybody. What the ear does is it shows us where the jawline is, and it gives us information on where the neckline is, which is crazy because you'd never expect the ear to give us so much detail. But if you think about it, if you look in the mirror again, a lot of face drawings, you can get really good at drawing a face just by looking in the mirror and like checking out all of your little bits and pieces. Patrick teaches art. Now, can we get a different angle on that? Different angle on this drawing? What are we talking about? Different angle on, So with that, we know exactly where the jaw starts, and because of that, we can sort of figure out, usually the angle starts at about the mouth, or like the new chin angle, the jawline. So if we have that mouth already drawn and we're pretty comfortable with it, we can start that curve right at that line, right? Are you seeing this? Are you streaming on anything else? And if you are, what's your username? I'm on YouTube and Twitch right now. Both should be Naswan B or Nathan B. I think it's all the same. Oh, I just did change my TikTok name. Naswan B, I believe, or Nathan Bittinger, whatever my username is. I always forget. Okay. If you want to join up, that's sick. I would love to have you in any of the chat rooms. Because I'm comfortable with this angle, but downward jaw or slightly more forward, I guess where the jaw is. Oh, yes, of course. Okay. I don't know if I'll have time to do that today, but I can definitely put in the books. Basically, this angle is solid. If you're drawing like a face that's looking up, that means that you're going to be able to see the bottom of the jaw, and then that face is all going to be up here, so you're going to be able to see the bottom of the nose and like barely any of the top of the nose, right? Is that making some sense? And then that mouth is going to be really small and really close to that nose because we're looking at the bottom of the chin. And then those eyes are going to be like right here, and they're going to be really skinny because we're looking at the bottom of the chin. And then that's just going to go basically like right into the neck. And then the ear is going to follow suit. and the head is going to be like that. Does that make sense? Can you see that? Like, you just have to think, that's okay, thanks, okay. I'll do some extra jaw stuff like tomorrow or something. By the way, Nathan, have I ever told you that your drawings are getting along quite well? You haven't. Thank you, Crow. That's very nice. Users throwing crazy emojis. Thank you very much. 44 people. That's awesome. Welcome in, everybody. We're doing drawing methods. I'm teaching some crazy hot diarrhea tips about eyes, lips, mouths, eyebrows, jaw lines, the whole 9 yards. We are ripping. Could you spell that username? Yeah, let me write it. Nayswan, and then the letter B. Nayswan B. Or Nathan Bittinger. If you look all those up, it should pop up. I mean, come on. I guess. Okay, so we have that jawline. It goes crazy. We'll throw that in. And then basically, if you look at the lips, this is like a medium warm tip. This is like whatever kind of tip. If you draw lines straight down from the edges of the lips, or the edges of the mouth, I would say, you sort of get that first plane of what the chin will be. So you can take this jawline, and you can connect that up basically right to there. And then you just round that out a little bit, and all of a sudden, you have the front of the face, the jaw, the chin, and everything is like sort of starting to look pretty normal, right? So now with that, we can take that up, and of course every single person is going to be a little bit different. Cheekbones are going to be either a lot shallower or a lot like crazier than these. The forehead is going to be a little bit different. But you can just sort of start to outline all of those little setups that we put in. And as you can see, all of a sudden, like this head is starting to take some great shape. Magnus, you didn't get the notification. Oh, I'm so sorry. By the way, when room tour? It's kind of lame. It's like I've been selling a whole bunch of shit because I'm just sick of having stuff. But I can do a little room tour. I agree with you, Crow. Oh, the closet's open. That's why. There's some really good stuff in there. Some stuff that I've sewn from scratch. Okay. Wait, my name is Nathan B. Wait, really? Nathan, what? You're drawing the jaw way too long? That's fine. Hey, check this out. All you have to do, if you're ever drawing the jaw way too long and someone in TikTok calls you out for it, guess what? The whole fun of this Loomis method and keeping the drawing light is you can figure that out and you can change that quick. So, we'll change the angle of that. We'll throw a couple extra exploratory lines in there. We'll throw in a new bottom of chin. And guess what, Playboy? We're bang on. And we're right back to a pretty solid jaw. It's a little bit smoother than the other one, but that's fine. Now that you have this, we can go back and draw in a little bit of the eyebrow. Now, if you remember, that same setup that I've been talking about this whole time. So we have a planal shift from the forehead into that slant of like the visor that is the eyebrow bone. And then we have the outcropping for the cheek right back. Can you do a person looking down and left like they're tired? Ooh, I could after. The cage man. He's stuck forever. Oh, I'm glad, Magnus. Your day's been going well. Sick. Okay. Eyebrows. Remember, that plane. The eyebrows sit a little bit above this visor ridge, right? So we can just go in here and draw a little rectangle to start and then a little bit of a trail. Because the eyebrow, if you look at the face, you can sort of tell that everything from the eyes on, like this is sort of like a straight facing plane. Like it is facing us. It is looking right at us. But The sides of the head, you have to remember, are a whole different plane. So if I drew it super simply over here, like the head is basically a box. And like this is where we have all of the details and whatever, but then the ear and everything is on this side of the head. So there is like a change, and that means when you're drawing an eyebrow, it's going to have that little trail because it crosses over and now it moves away from us. That is a sexy tip. That is something that nobody... Yeetus! Oh, sick! Gotta go, but thanks for the tips. I'll try and catch another stream. Thank you so much for coming. That's awesome. Be sure to follow so you get a notification or whatever. You see how an eyebrow moves away from us, and that's why it has that sort of trail off tip. You're so talented. Thank you so much. Hot as fuck. I just learned this on my own 2 weeks ago. Dude, it changes you. Once you start learning all these little tiny drawing tips, you start like really thinking about the world, really thinking about taxes. Okay, same thing on this side. We can start with that rectangle, and then this one is going to trail off in the opposite direction. And then we can refine, depending on what kind of character you're drawing, eyebrow shapes are always going to change. So, if you're just trying to get fundamentals down, just play with them. Just like explore, figure out what sort of things you want to do and what sort of things, or what sort of eyebrows you want to draw. Because they're all different. You can draw like super thin ones, you can draw weird bulbous ones, but the thing that remains is that they do cross over that plane, and they do move away from the perspective we're looking at. Can you show lips? Like these lips? Yes. So, basically what I was talking about earlier is if you simplify lips down to the absolute core, there is a top plane where the sun hits, and then there's a bottom plane where the sun doesn't, and that's the top lip. And then on the bottom lip, same thing. There's a sun lip, or a sun plane, and a shade plane. So you're never actually drawing any sort of lines around the lips. You're just drawing a nice thin layer of gray, and then you're drawing a little bit dark shadow on the very bottom of the bottom lip, and then you're drawing a little bit of a shadow on the bottom of the top lip. And that's how you get a pretty solid lip constantly. You're chill, but low-key, you're kind of unqualified. Thanks, Rui. That means a lot. What about if the POV is just forward? Then the eyebrows look a little bit more uniform. They don't have such a trail, and that's when, if you're looking at yourself in the mirror, you see how like the shape is pretty uniform forever. That's basically how you're going to do it. Progress. Yes, progress indeed. So we have these eyebrows going. They're looking fine. The eyes are solid. We have the nose. We can just continue to add little bits of detail on everything. Add a little bit of volume. Add a little bit of shadow. Whatever suits your fancy, right? And basically, like those are all of the main points that you need to draw a head and face. So what you can do next is all the fun stuff. So you can do like a hairline, you can do sideburns, and you can just play with it. Different hairstyles, different everything. We're not focusing on hair today, but the back of the head, basically, top of the head swoops down, and then it connects into the neck. And depending on the perspective, sometimes that neck is going to be hidden behind the ear. Sometimes it's going to be way out here depending on the character, but basically you can just draw a rough cut of where you think that neck is going to lie, add in some shoulders, and then add in a little bit of that neck muscle, blah blah blah, collarbone, who cares. But what we were focusing on today was just the face, and I think we cleared that. We cleared that hot style. I think I can understand now. I got both Loomis Methods books. Oh, sick. That's awesome. I'm probably good at the eyes and eyebrows, and I'm probably not good at the mouth. Well, I can do the mouth again. Hey, I'm not a realistic artist, but I'm struggling to make a side profile in an art piece right now. I kind of need advice on what to do. Check this out. Okay. Rodri, I'm going to do the lips in a second. I have like the perfect profile drawing for you. Oh, here's Timothée Chalamet for anyone that's wondering. Oh, does anyone need to see Timothée Chalamet quick? There you go. That's all you needed. So for profile faces, bingo, here we go. Basically, there is a pretty solid method for a profile face. And to make matters even better, Crow, Magnus, how are you guys going? I've never been through, but it sounds like something you'd say, so I believe you. It's tough. I know what that means when I'm flattered. That's great. Okay, so for a profile, I wish I had that. I have an incredible, like, oh yeah, baby. Here we go. Check this out. So, if you're thinking about a profile face, you can draw this big square on the paper. Remember, keep it pretty light so nothing actually ruins or you're not like drawing over stuff. But if you have this big square, you cut it into fourths, and then you could do it for every single line, but really the only important lines are this one and this one. But cut this into fourths. So to do that, you just take a midline, and then of those two sections that you just cut in half again. We'll call this box A. In this box, we'll call this box B. We're going to do the same thing. So you're going to cut it in half and then cut it into fourths, right? For this middle line, just throw in one middle cut. For this middle line, throw in one middle cut. And then for this line, we'll call this C and D. Right in the middle of C and D, we're going to do the same thing. So half and then quarter, right? Are you following along so far? Now with this box and with all of these sort of cutouts, it gives us the perfect setup to get the head shape correct. So at this bottom mark of A, remember how we cut it into fourths, that bottom fourth mark is where your eyebrow is going to go. So you can start from there and you can draw up to just the middle line of the entire box. Then from there you can draw down to just before this quarter mark on this line. And then you can draw all that right down to the middle line of this middle line between B and D. Sorry, I should have marked that out earlier. That's fine. We take that in stride. I'm asking for my art piece for someone who's looking down to the right and they look tired. I'll get it. I'll get it. All right. We are handling one profile picture and then we can start thinking about their next drawing. Okay. So then that gives us the jawline, or like the skull into jaw. So then you can draw all the way down into basically like what you could say is just a Nike swoop. And then you have that chin. And then basically the rest of the drawing is just drawing little pizza cutouts for the eye and the lips, connecting that brow line that we started with into the bridge of the nose, which is just like a big wedge, and then focusing on all of the inside details. But if you use this box method, and if you watch my video, it should be somewhere on my TikTok, it goes through this in depth. But profile drawing is extremely hard. It took me a long time to figure out, and this method helped me a lot. I just drew a bunch of different people and shapes and tried out this method. You can see like this box method is everywhere in these profile drawings that I have been doing. And it works. It really does. It really teaches you a lot about how to draw profiles. So I'd say give that a shot, and we will see. Okay, let's get back to another quick Timothée Chalamet showing. Shwet! Okay, back to this method. We are running out of time, people. Okay, we've already been drawing for over an hour. I got you, thanks. Good, I'm glad. Okay, Rodri. We're at lips. You remember when you asked for lips? So, it took me a long, long time to get to lips because what I would always do is I would draw that top line, and then I would draw a midline, and then I would draw a bottom line. And that would look very cartoony and very gross. And it would always ruin my drawings. I think you're lagging a bit. Oh no. Damn. Okay, I gotta try and fix that. Also, sorry guys, I've been teaching so hard, I've been missing some of your messages. So that looks cartoony and weird. But I was talking to a buddy of mine. Hands are to draw for me. Ooh, I could do Latrell. I've done a lot of hands. I've got a good method for you. But I can't do it tonight. This looks awful. And I was talking to my friend and I was talking about how much I hate drawing lips. And they told me, you don't actually draw lips, you shade them. And I thought, what? You've got to be kidding me. So basically, what you want to do when you're drawing lips, and you can see these, you draw that midline, and whatever it has, like, it'll usually have that little dip and whatever, and it has a little opening on both edges or whatever. You only draw that midline, and then you just shade 2 half circles, a very easy gray, like nothing crazy. You see how I'm doing this? Sort of like an elongated Pokeball. Just 2 very uniform gray blobs. And you can cut into it and you can give them a little bit of shape and whatever by adding that little polyp in the middle, but it's just 2 gray blocks. And then what you want to think about is that, like this drawing, there are planes to the face. There are important sides and important things that you have to think about, which is where the light's hitting. So, if we simplify these lips down to their absolute core, which is just a plane that is facing towards the sky, and then a plane that's facing towards the ground, and then you have the midline, and then you have another plane that's facing towards the sky, and then another plane that's facing towards the ground. Then we keep these top planes light and these bottom planes shaded. You all of a sudden take this same idea, cut that top of the lip in half. This little bottom section is going to be darker than that top section. Same thing with the bottom. This bottom half is going to be darker than that top half. And that's how you shade lips. You can smooth out all of these little edges. Give it a little bit of more definition. But all of a sudden you have pretty realistic looking lips, and all you did was shade a little bit instead of drawing them. Does that make sense? And then of course, like, the more time you spend on these lips, the more realistic they'll look. But look at that. Those, like, as opposed to some random cartoony ass lips, those look great. Makes sense? I'm glad. Okay. I have got TikTok. I've got to catch up with my YouTube and Twitch chat. Hey, this is me, by the way. I've been teaching you all night. 71 of you. That's crazy. I think this is the best class I've ever taught. Here, we'll flip this camera around. Actually, I don't even think I can do that. Whatever. Okay. We'll talk to everybody like this. We are just chilling. Okay. Bloom. I gotta talk to Magnus and Crow for a little bit because we're about to end. We've been going for an hour and almost 10 minutes, which is sick. I'm happy to have you all along. We can even throw the camera this way, huh? We're chilling. Okay. Let's think about all of this. I have to scroll up. I'm so sorry, Crow and Magnus. Change your name from Magnus to Bloom. We already know that. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, sweet. Okay. I didn't actually miss anything. Poochie, I thought it was just me and I restarted my phone thinking it was a virus. Oh yeah, Magnus, you missed it. Poochie told us that he got a porn virus and everybody laughed at him. It isn't too bad. It's just randomly bad. Settles down for a little bit. Same. He's on fire. Thank you, Poochie. For real, he's cooking too much. It's messing with his equipment. Oh, it's 'cause I'm lagging. God damn it. Okay, well, that's it. That's over. For the rest of you guys, I'll be on tomorrow or something. We really cooked here. We really stinking cooked here. I wish I would have recorded this stream, but that's fine. That's it. I'm out of here. I'm Nathan. If you want to follow me, great, because then when I'm doing more stuff, you can ask me to draw specific things, and I'll teach you how to do it. That's easy as hell. All right. Love y'all. See ya. Damn it. I'm so mad. I'm so pissed. It's lagging, man. Alright, well. Oh, we might be back. Maybe it was the TikTok live that got me going crazy. Well, anyways, I mean, at the very least, that stream went incredible. I'm going to clip a bunch of moments from Twitch. Oh, it's unstable. What if it... Oh, no. Okay, well... LMAO, what? I don't even know what you're saying. What about Magnus? Essentially, that stream went really well. The TikTok side of things was popping off. You guys were popping off. And so that gave me a ton of energy to, like, be myself and show personality, right? I was going to ask what he got the virus from in a funny way, but I refrained from doing so. Oh, you're lagging, so you're just hearing what I was talking about like minutes ago. Shoot! Okay, well, I'll save us all the pain and I'll just end this. I'll figure out how to fix my PC. Okay,